What's going on, everyone? Adam Gelman here. I am excited to bring another video here. We've had just an incredible couple of days in wrestling with the return of CM Punk and Survivor Series. If you were like me and watching that, probably blown away by that entire situation, either good or bad. But I'm not going to spend this video talking about that. I'm sure we'll have lots of coverage to come here on WTC. What I wanted to talk about today was the sort of resolution or the seeming resolution between WWE and Panini and the eventual impact that that will have on wrestling cards going forward, because it could have wide-ranging implications as we sort of figure out how Fanatics and Panini will continue to engage with the different licenses that are available for them to use as they approach the next few years, as we come to the eventual consolidation of trading cards in 2026. So if you think about how we got here, um, coming out of the National in Chicago last year, or this past year, Fanatics and Panini started going at it in the courts. Panini sued Fanatics for their eventual antitrust consolidation plan, stealing employees, all the sorts of things that went down with that. NFLPA canceled their license with Panini, even though they had years left to come, citing a number of different things that they're still being worked out. And then the big bomb dropped, which is WWE also canceled their license with Panini, which from the filings that we saw was a number of years early. And it led to a suit, a countersuit, a number of injunctions that were filed to create a restraining order for Panini not to release products until the lawsuits were figured out. Then it was another injunction trying to sort of figure out if there was actually going to be a case here. Within the last week, we've found out that they have actually agreed to a settlement. And there are some huge implications as to what that might mean going forward. And I'm going to run through some of the potential scenarios that could happen, including some feedback from industry insiders who have told me specifically what they have heard is going to be the result here. And I'm going to say right now, like, I love what Panini has done in WWE. I think that's abundantly clear. They've done an incredible job bringing more eyes to the product. They've done an incredible job opening doors with new types of cards and on-card signatures and multi-signed cards and all sorts of craziness that's gone down. They've also brought, a ton of money to the actual scene itself with record-setting auctions and stuff like that going down for Panini cards. All of that is absolutely 100% true. The other piece of it is I think Topps has a really strong position as well with their history in wrestling cards, superfractors, transcendent, all of the amazing things that they've done too. So really, to me, I'm just want wrestling cards to continue to come out and come out on a regular basis because I love collecting them. I would love for both Topps and Panini to have an opportunity to make it. That's not really the way that the leagues have sort of approached this in the last few years. Mostly it's exclusive licenses since 2010, 2011 timeframe. So there really hasn't been a sport, outside of hockey and a few other minor other licenses where multiple companies are producing for them. Especially now, I've already said on a number of videos that the exclusive licenses were the next battleground, and Fanatics has scooped almost every single one of them up that will switch over to them starting in 2026. They've also purchased an auction house. They've purchased distribution. They've seemingly gotten the people who print the cards. I mean, like, they are literally going for it. And, when you look at how that applies to the overall hobby, I'm not as, bullish on that whole situation. I understand that consolidating under one company and giving them control gives them the ability to invest in the products more than if they had to worry about things not going long term. But everything I've seen has shown that Fanatics, when Fanatics takes something over, it rarely is better than when they left it, or the way the previous licensee left it. It's rarely given a quality standpoint from a lot of different areas. If you look at the issues that they've had across a number of different platforms, whether it's sports memorabilia, just general sort of sports licensing, and the t-shirt issues that were national news for the Eagles shirts and stuff like that. Like, I'm worried about Fanatics taking over. And I am worried because consolidation doesn't breed a need to compete. And that is what drives innovation in a lot of different markets that are out there. So let's get to sort of the settlement here. From what Paul Lesko has reported, there is a settlement that has been reached. Both sides have agreed to that. The case will be eventually be dismissed with prejudice, which means that it can't be brought before the courts again. Everything seems to be worked out, and from all intents and purposes, we will not see the details of that settlement. So whatever it is that you might be hearing, it is all being delivered through secondary channels. It's not necessarily been delivered through Panini or through Topps or Fanatics or anybody. The court case was between WWE and Panini, not Panini and Fanatics. That's another thing that's a common sort of misconception. Fanatics seems to be called out in Panini's filings that they were the ones pulling the strings, and I think we're all sort of under that specific feedback that Fanatics is definitely behind a lot of this, but it's something that has not been identified. It's not been a portion of this lawsuit. Really, this is between WWE's assessment of Panini's use of their license and canceling it for before the 2026 timeframe that they were supposed to have it. So as it stands right now, there is an agreement in place, and that means that whatever is going down is what is going to be the eventual sort of resolution of this entire case. It's not just a small part of it, it's just this specific thing. And what ended up happening, from what Paul was saying, is that the judge basically said, you guys, this is a business dispute. You shouldn't be figuring this out in the courts. You shouldn't be doing this. It is something that you guys need to deliver come together and deliver an agreement, because this is just a waste of everybody's time. And I think there are four things that I've identified as potential outcomes. The first one, I think, is probably going to be involved regardless. So basically, Panini, this is scenario one. Panini and WWE agree to terms, and basically Panini receives some sort of financial compensation for the time frame in which they're giving up, and Fanatics takes over immediately. And that immediately means Topps gets to make wrestling cards again, starting as soon as possible. Now, there are production timelines and there are things as to why that won't happen like tomorrow, but it will happen very quickly. So financial compensation is something that I expect to be a major part of this regardless. But again, we will never get the outcome of that. It's under seal. It's something that is rarely shared in these types of settlement situations. Again, when you look at the settlement itself, both sides are likely going to have to get something. I don't think that there was any real sort of establishment that one side had a stronger case over the other from a legal standpoint. Fanatics called out that Panini never made a trading card game. They never made digital cards. Panini said, you're just canceling this for the sake of cancellation, and we've done everything to expand your influence and expand the license. So really, wasn't like a clear cut, like smoking gun that gave one side an advantage. So therefore, there's going to be some sort of compromise here. Financially, that's going to be a major part of it. Scenario one is it's all financial. I don't think that's likely a win for Panini. I think that that's more a win for Fanatics, because financial liquidity is something that Fanatics has in spades, and just paying to take this over in a small license is a huge win for Fanatics, and a huge win for everything that WWE is saying. So really, the financial compensation is likely going to come from WWE. It's not going to come from Fanatics, because again, Fanatics is not part of this lawsuit. However, Fanatics seems to be a very major point of contention here, because they already had a deal in place for 2026 that was announced the week before Prism was released to the public in 2022. So we have to believe that there's going to be some sort of financial compensation that will be delivered, and WWE will need to fund that. Specifically to this, it also gives Fanatics an indication that we can buy out Panini's remaining years on all the licenses that we have. That includes baseball, football, basketball, UFC, you name it. This was a test the waters type of scenario. And I think that if Fanatics just agreed with WWE that this is the best way to go, and WWE just gives Panini some sort of financial compensation, I think that's a huge win for Fanatics. I don't think that's probably what happened, but it's something that financially is going to be a part of it. Number two, or scenario number two here, um, Elite is already on the calendar, and it's already pretty much done from what we've seen. So in this scenario, there's likely some sort of financial compensation as well, but at least WWE gives Panini the ability to release Elite and release that product in full, and then the license becomes terminated, and then that license will eventually move to Fanatics very, very quickly, likely sometime in early 2024 after a grace period and something like that. Scenario number three is Panini is granted to the ability to basically fulfill their 2023 release calendar. So we're talking the release of sets like Impeccable, Immaculate, Chronicles, all of the stuff that they had already announced as part of that filing. And then the license will move to Fanatics after that's done and a grace period. So you're likely looking at middle to end of 2024. And like that is something that I think would be the best outcome for Panini, given that they're not going to win 100%, and like it gives them an opportunity to finish all the plans that they had in place. But it does allow Fanatics to move in a little bit earlier than they expected. So that would scenario number three seems to be a really good compromise. We'll see what actually happens. And then the last scenario is a complete win for Panini, in my opinion, which is number four. They are granted the ability to fulfill the entirety of the license, so through 2025 into 2026 with the grace period, but they have to come up with the trading card game and the digital cards that were pursuant to the complaint. But the license will move to Fanatics as planned in 2026. So again, I don't think four are probably going to happen. I think it's going to be some sort of combination of two or three. And I would say if we're looking at this, you don't want this to go down where Fanatics is given any indication that they can operate with impunity. Like I just think that that's a terrible precedent to set. So any combination of two or three with some financial compensation, I think Panini needs to walk away feeling good. At least they didn't get completely bullied out of the license, but they're not getting everything that they were trying to believe they were entitled to. It's kind of that whole give and take situation. Now let's talk about what I think probably ended up happening and how this is going to play out. So if you guys are familiar with Brian Gray, he was the former CEO of Leaf Trading Cards. He's an industry insider. He's somebody that has a lot of connections in this hobby. According to him, and this was posted publicly on Twitter, there was a settlement that was a combination of two and three. Likely is more sort of a partial win for Panini, I guess you would say, but not necessarily. So according to Brian, Panini is going to get the ability to release Elite, and they're going to get the ability to clear out their assets, but then Fanatics comes in and takes over. So what assets they would have in place are things like sticker autographs, relics, and stuff like that. So you're looking at a delivery of Elite, which is good. We all are hoping that that can happen. And then likely some sort of like asset dump product. So it seems like that still could be under the Chronicles brand, where they're getting rid of every single sticker that they have for WWE, considering that it's unlikely that they'll get the license back in a time frame that makes those stickers worth keeping. So I would say you're looking at a Chronicles or consolidation type product where you're having a release of every single relic that they have, every single sticker autograph that they have. It's going to be an absolute mammoth sort of release just to clear everything out. That should happen probably likely early 2024. Given production timelines, they could adopt whatever they were going to do for Chronicles and deliver that. But man, like, I'm not happy that we're only going to get 2 years of Prism and 2 years of Select. I'm not happy we're not going to get another version of Immaculate unless that comes as part of the asset dump. Like, this should have been allowed to go to fruition because it only makes wrestling cards better for when Fanatics takes over. I don't think that Topps is going to be able to come in and deliver what Panini has delivered consistently. I think they're going to be limited by a number of factors and attention and a number of different things. Panini really poured a lot of resources into these products. And I think Topps will do really, really good stuff with Chrome and Fineness and hopefully the return of Transcendent. Maybe we get Dynasty WWE, something like that. It'll be crazy. But I just, the products will be expensive just like they are for Panini. It will be a new version of Topps. It won't be the old version of Topps. It'll be a completely different approach, which isn't necessarily a bad thing in totality. But the fact that we didn't get to see the playing out of all the different things that Panini has done, I think is a disappointment. Additionally, for redemptions, I think if you're left holding redemptions, if the autographs are not in house, I don't think they're going to get them. I think they're going to be forced into a situation where they just have to work with what they have. You'll likely want to get some sort of replacement. You'll get something from WWE. Maybe they'll make cards specifically for redemptions that are outstanding. But I don't think that there's things like available that they're going to be able to go to Roman Reigns or go to Cody Rhodes or go to the people that are outstanding and get them to sign, given that WWE has basically terminated their relationship. So that's a really big negative, and that's something that I think everybody should be heaping blame onto Fanatics for not allowing this to play through, because if they had another 2 years, I think those cards would have gotten done. I think there is every reason to believe that given their track record, they've already done a really good job at getting redemptions out. Some of them are still pending, some of them are still waiting to be signed. That's understandable. It happens with every company, whether it's Topps or Panini or Upper Deck Relief or anybody. So I think if we're going to sort of lose the Panini license here very quickly, I think it's a really clear understanding that those redemptions are probably not worth your time. And if you have one that you haven't scratched yet that isn't in stock, I think you're out of luck. Unfortunately, either sell it before people catch on, or get it to the point where you can get a replacement, get something of value that Panini already has in their asset bin. But I think what we're going to see is that Topps is going to come back into wrestling cards, and it's going to happen very, very quickly. So if you're a Topps fan, that's good news for you. I don't think, like I said, I don't think it's going to be the Topps of old. I think it's going to be sort of a new sort of way of approaching this, because the cost of the license has gone up so dramatically. And I think there's no way that Topps can come back and produce $50 boxes of wrestling cards on a regular basis the way they did in 2018 and 2017. Those days are long gone. You may get one or two, you may get an NXT type product, which eventually gets to that point. But Chrome, Finest, all those products that they've done, Undisputed, if it comes back, it's all going to be more expensive. Hopefully that also means we get better content, we get better checklists, which is something that I think Panini has done so much better than Topps ever could, mainly because they just had more resources and more money to spend. So now that Topps has that at their back, hopefully we get that. I'm excited to see kind of how this all plays out. I'm just operating like the rest of us off of secondary information. Once you start to see the sell sheets come out for Topps, you're going to have a good understanding of what to expect. If they don't come and Panini starts releasing sell sheets for 3-4 products down the road, maybe the settlement went a different way. But it's over. And I'm guessing from the way that products are previewed, from the way the release calendar is set up, we'll have a good idea of how this played out. Anyways, stay tuned. We've got a ton more coverage to come. Lots of stuff to come on, things that are going down in wrestling cards. We'll have an announcement of the main event coming up here in Cleveland. There's going to be a huge amount of stuff coming to WTC. Stay tuned, subscribe, leave a comment. What do you guys think has happened? Let's hear it. Put it all here. I'm excited to see what you guys have to say. Thanks.